Hey, Paul, can you hear?
Well, it looks like maybe there's. Huh. Something blocking my camera? It's weird. Let's see.
I just remember one say for a friend. So, yeah.
No, not at all. It's having some technical difficulties. There we go.
Yeah, so I mean,
There we go.
but also professionally.
Okay.
So then,
Okay. So for folks listening on the call, we'll get started at 5:45. So I'm going to start the timer one more time, and we'll get started at 5:45. Thanks. Okay. So again, so for the people in the room, thank you for joining us today, and for everybody online, thank you for joining us as well. And so this is Paul Swider, the Boston Cloud and AI Community monthly meeting hosted here at the Microsoft offices in Burlington, Massachusetts. And I'd like you to know I've added a QR code to the slides. So for the folks in the room, you can get this afterwards. You can get it on the board. And it will bring you to our link tree where we've got all of our links and information. So you can sign up for the mailing list there. We call it our insiders group. There's a link. I'll actually show you the pages quickly, but there's a link where you can submit if you'd like to speak or present on a topic. We encourage people to do that, especially new speakers and students, etc. So we want to give a quick thank you to Microsoft for sponsoring us with this space, and also Real Activity for sponsoring us with the food. And also going back to the conversation we were having about growth, I did want to start mentioning during our meetings that we are seeking additional corporate sponsors at this time to support the group. Meetings are the last Wednesday of the month. And essentially, our mission of the Boston Healthcare Cloud and AI community, or Boss Hug, brings together a diverse group of innovators united by a shared vision to harness the power of cloud computing and AI to improve health outcomes, enhance patient experiences, and foster collaborative innovation for providers, members, and researchers. So that's essentially at our core what we hope to do with our meetings and groups. And actually, before I introduce the speaker, I'd like to take a moment and share with you some of those links. So to start with, I had mentioned the link tree. So when you find the link tree, you'll see, again, you'll have everything you need here, including, we were just talking about this, all of our videos are stored on YouTube going back for the last couple of years since we started the group. This is a call for speakers for anybody that would like to speak. And if you join the community, there is also a checkbox if you're interested in sponsorship. So some of the other things that we do aside from, so this is our forum, our meetup group. Some of the other things that we do aside from the monthly meetings is we work with the Microsoft Global Community Initiative to organize, these are complimentary free events for the community. And so there's some that we organize, but I also want to share some that other folks in the local community are organizing. This one is actually one of my favorite events. I've been speaking at it for a few years now, but I've known about the event for some time. The reason why is because I'm a developer, I'm a coder at heart. So this is for developers. It's a code camp. It'll be at the Cambridge Microsoft office. It's I think it's been going on for a long time, like at least a decade. They've been doing this year after year. And it's just a really great group of developers, coders, going over, and you can imagine this year there's going to be a lot of AI, agentic. How do you implement that using the Microsoft tools, VS Code, etc. So that should be exciting. I'll be there as well. I'm giving a session on agentic and building intelligent agents.
Oh, it's here.
Is that's here? Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, the next one's in Cambridge. Thank you for catching that. That one's here at this office. Gosh, this Burlington office. Gosh, good catch. So yeah, I'm sorry. This one is the one that's in Cambridge. So then there's also May 1st and 2nd is the AI Community Conference. So this one I'll also be presenting at. I'm doing a half-day workshop on the same topic I'm talking about at the Code Camp, which is essentially at the using code, how can we create agentic algorithms? So there's a lot of information. You're probably starting to see presentations on how we do that using things like Copilot Studio and even things in Teams, and there's an agent framework that we can use. But we can go down even a level lower, and we can actually work with something called the semantic kernel. and do a lot of that stuff are build cool apps ourselves and integrate enterprise AI. So that's basically what there'll be a lot of that at this conference. And I'll be talking about the same topic. It'll be an hour at the Code Camp and then a half a day workshop here. And these are completely free. Again, these are the types of things that we work with. It's a Microsoft Global Community Initiative out of the headquarters in Seattle. And that includes this event will be here as well, June 4th. So they're also kind enough to support us. We're doing a full day event. This is our second year in a row doing this. So it'll be our second annual one. And this one, we're excited. We're getting interest actually in the North Carolina area with the local HIMSS chapter there. So as you know, HIMSS has chapters all around the US for folks that are interested in clinical informatics and more. And so North Carolina HIMSS is very interested in working with us. And also Orlando. There's some really big health systems in the Orlando area, and it's a big event and conference area, if you will. So we may do 2 more of these later in the year. Free events, again, there'll be community-based events working with local Microsoft partners. And so that's who we are. And now let's go back.
Could you go back to the first event?
Possibly. Let me see. The first event?
I have it here. Oh,
The Code Camp?
yeah.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Yeah, and the hashtag is an easy way to search for it. BOSCC. Highly recommend. It's a great event. Highly recommend it. Okay, good. All right, so now let's pop out here. And I want to show something else before we get going here. Let me just bear with me while I switch screens. Trying to master Restream this month. All the little gadgets. Typically, I just throw the camera on and we record and we go, but I'm actually trying to be a little bit more polite for the people online. So I think so. So today's session, what we're going to talk about, as you saw in the invitation, it's Lance and I. I'll be happy to. I'm going to introduce Lance here in just a minute. We're going to talk about prompt engineering. And so the idea is I'm going to start by talking about why it's important, like why we should even care about prompt engineering. Because in all fairness, to many in the room, prompt engineering may just be what you're doing in Copilot today, right? And sure, we're picking up some tips and tricks, but but hopefully what you'll see is there's a lot of reasons why these prompts are important, and it goes beyond just the chat, the typical chat interface with Copilot. And so I thought a good way to start would be to look at. So first of all, let me just say this. So everybody in this group that attends a meeting is going to get a complimentary copy of this guide. So this is our second year in a row doing it. We publish it as a Kindle book. We pretty much distribute it for free, but we do offer it as a Kindle book as well. And is one of the benefits of being involved in the community. We're going to give everybody, as soon as it's published, the very first draft, very first, I guess it would be V1. And we're almost there. We're like 95% of the way there. We've got to get some feedback from some leadership folks, and then we'll go forward. But essentially what this is, it's interesting. It started as a prompt guide, like 2 years, like when Gen AI first came out, it was announced like 2 months before HIMSS. And we were going to HIMSS and we knew about Gen AI, but we didn't know what to bring with us. And so to test the Copilot at the time, we're like, hey, what should we do? And it's like, hey, do a prompt guide. And so the next thing I know, we had like 250 prompts and we were off to HIMSS, and gosh, it's been a whirlwind ever since then, since that day. And it has evolved since then. So then that was pretty generic, but then Microsoft released Copilot, which we were really excited about. So we switched the guide to be a Copilot guide. So initially it was ChatGPT, it was just 250 prompts. When Microsoft released Copilot, then we ported everything into Copilot. And then after a year, we decided to do the 2025 version, and we turned it more into a book where we actually have some learning up front about prompt engineering and some things that you might want to know. Is so, by the way, the audience here are healthcare executives, but these prompts are very applicable to anybody working in the administration and operations side of healthcare. So they're not clinical, just to be clear, they're not clinical based prompts. That's not what we're going to look at today. This is more on the administration and the operations side. And with this particular guide, we try to target leadership. So the reason why I'm showing this to you today, I'm going to fast forward through some of the verbiage up front that just talks about, and by the way, I do encourage you to read about this, read it, because we even try to demystify AI agents. What a lot of folks are starting to talk about agents now. And then you can see we go into prompts for leadership, for example, right? And then we've got different executive scenarios. And then finally, we dive into giving a lot of sample prompts, right? So you can see for chief medical officers, for example, and then some of the things we have, using Copilot suggests 5 criteria for selecting external partners that align with our hospital's mission to expand rural patient access. So just giving an idea of just how detailed you could get, right? So a lot of, for folks that aren't aware of it, there's a designation for hospitals in rural areas and smaller communities. There's literally a designation as rural. And when that happens, it opens up additional funding for the hospital. So for example, if you're a hospital in Vermont, you might get extra funding for helicopters so that you can get out into the woods and rescue people. And so it's sort of and so what you're seeing here is just a great example of where the executives are not just able to ask about generally what hospital, but really diving into the details of what are the specifics as it relates to rural hospitals. So I don't want to spend too much time here because I think we're all comfortable with this. Like, we know that there are prompts that we can use, that we can put these into different chat interfaces. This guide is designed for Copilot. And what I would submit is that when Lance starts talking about the details and some of the technical nuances of prompt engineering, that what you learn will be applicable in these types of prompts. And I think we can just stop there, unless anybody has any questions, of course. Okay.
In the specific example you cite, like in terms of allocate the fund for a helicopter, does it mean that they need to use that for purpose, or if they get the funding, they can use other things, a more priority service?
I have no idea. I'm assuming they have to really buy a helicopter with it, but that is like way outside of my expertise. But I could probably find out with AI,
Exactly,
if I really wanted to know.
That's interesting.
Okay, so now let's start to talk. So again, I'm going to spend a few more minutes talking about why prompting is important, and then we'll turn it over to Lance, and he's going to talk about the techniques and teach us more about the details. Okay, so let's start. So prompting. So we already know Copilot, right? Okay, so we said that, and I just showed you that guide, right? So imagine me putting those prompts in here, and I press enter, boom, that's prompt engineering. We're chatting. We've done this. So, but now let's keep going. So now you've heard about Copilot Studio. Uh-oh, I have to wait for all these to refresh. You could do it. So Copilot Studio. And as you know, in Copilot Studio, we could create these things called agents now, which essentially do a bunch of work behind the scenes. And I guess they can be intelligent. They know things. And so you can create these really quickly. Actually, I did the snowboard guide, which I'm actually going to try this weekend because I heard there's a big storm coming in. And I would love to get to the mountains one more time. But essentially what I did, it took me 15 minutes to set this up. I wanted to do a quick demo. So I did the snowboard guide. What's really beautiful about Copilot Studio, by the way, I love this as a software developer engineer. They eat their own dog food, meaning when you go to Copilot Studio and you want to create a Copilot, you're literally using a Copilot as the user experience. So kudos, props. That's I love to see that. And there's other places where we're starting to see that in the Microsoft stack. So that's literally, you know, I don't want to go through that process now, but it was like, you know, one of the very first questions it asked me was, give me your instructions and give me the knowledge, etc. But the point I'm making here is that instruction is a system prompt. So it's another example of why understanding these prompts is important. It's beyond just the Copilot chat interface. The minute we start working with agents, we'll be using prompts the entire time. We'll be using prompts that Microsoft, UX that they give us to create the agent in Copilot Studio. And then we'll go through and we'll be creating a system prompt for our users to use that agent, which in this case is my snowboard agent. And then, you know, I'm assuming you know how, you may or may not, I don't want to make assumptions, but we're not here to talk about agents. But then, you know, I gave it some more knowledge. I put a couple of links to the snow report in Vermont, the snow report in New Hampshire. And then part of the instructions I gave it was to, let's see if I can find that quickly. It's not here. I don't even know where they store that. Oh, I think if I just scroll down, duh. So yeah, so some of the instructions I gave it is to use the tone and style of Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I was having fun, right? But then I did say, hey, be an expert snowboarder because the conditions can be different with skiing and snowboarding. And then I did also point it to the biggest Reddit for snowboarding, just so it could pick up like snowboarding nomenclature and lingo, etc. And so, you know, it works pretty well. Like if I let's test it. I haven't tested it in a couple of weeks, but if I say, where should I ride this weekend? It should. Yeah. So, okay. So, you know, now it's telling me, okay, wow, Killington, fresh powder, 20 inches. You know, obviously you want to double check that. That sounds amazing. But assuming that's true, that sounds amazing. Okay. So you see the point again, we're not really here to talk about agents, but it's really prompt engineering. And we just want to acknowledge that, again, prompt engineering extends beyond the chat interface. The very next example is doing it with agents. Okay. Now let me show you another cool example. We started doing this. This is another
Before
Microsoft.
we move on,
Yeah.
can we expand on the booking of the hotel piece? So it's recommended a hotel. Is there any
Yeah.
way for it to actually book the hotel?
Yeah, sure. It could if I took time to build that out, but I just have it. So, and that's what my talks about will be about at the next couple of events. But essentially what you need to do is agents use actions, and so you would essentially need an action that would book the hotel room. And then the AI would just know when to call that agent at the appropriate time. So it's not like it's going to just, well, I mean, you know, ultimately it will help you also write the code for that agent if you need it, etc. You know, the interface, you know, if you need code. So I guess it will do more than just, you know. But that's sort of what that would look like. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And that's true across, like, regardless of whether you do agents like on the Microsoft stack, they're at different levels. So the way I think about it is you have Copilot, which is like the consumer-based front-facing one that everybody can access. You go to copilot.microsoft.com. And then you have Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's the one where you start paying $30 a month, and basically it's connected to your Office tenant. And so it knows all about you. Potentially, if you want it to, knows about all of your Office documents, calendars, Teams, etc. And then if you go down one more level, then in Teams, there's actually a framework, like an API, a software developer kit that you can use to extend your applications and extend it into the corporation. It's an agent SDK that's part of Teams. And then if you go one step lower, there's a brand new SDK that just came out for Azure. I forgot I had this. Sorry, if you're enjoying my research. I did want to share this with you anyway, actually. So, anyway, I hope that helps. I got sidetracked.
Just note that
Azure. Yeah, sorry.
Killington's website say that there's 6 inches of snow
6
within the last week.
Within the last week. And what did that say? 20 or something
20
like that?
inches.
Yeah. So it needs work. And by the way, I'm not here to impress you with my Copilot Studio agent. You know, I literally spent 10 minutes on that just so I could show people. I've been working on agents literally for 2 years, coding them with semantic kernel VS Code. And I literally just did that last month for the first time. I did my own little, you know, snowboarding demo. But let me go because I want Lance to get on here. So one of the cool things we started working with, this is another Microsoft partner. It's called Perplexity. built on top of OpenAI, but they let you use that link to other LLMs as well. And so one of the cool things they have is they have something called spaces. And so what you do is you create a space, and then what you can do is you can give it instructions, getting back to the prompts again, right? So if I click on this, you can see I'm giving an assistant prompt saying, hey, you're Real Activity Copilot, an advanced assistant. You're powered by Microsoft Semantic Kernel, blah, 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 blah. You see where I'm going with that? And now every time my team and I are in here, and by the way, I can connect this to SharePoint, which is really cool. And so now in this workspace, another example of prompts. So now I've showed you 3 examples. So we have the chat interface, and then the minute you move on into agents, you'll have to work with prompts there. And now you're seeing, by the way, all of the major chat applications, Copilot, Perplexity, ChatGPT, the ones that I use, they all have a similar notion, right? So Copilot has Copilot pages, ChatGPT calls them projects, and Perplexity calls them spaces. But it's this notion of having a team workspace that you can preset with a system prompt and some data for your team to collaborate. Beautiful, love it. By the way, wow. So what I did, I created a space for my sales team. You know how they're always asking all these questions with this, that, what about this feature, pricing that? So I just create one of these spaces. I point it to all of our product documentation, all pricing, everything, and give it a system prompt like, hey, you're here to help the salespeople. And it's brilliant. Now they're just up there, tell me about this feature, blah, 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 blah. Now, keep in mind, you do want to be careful about the corporate data thing, right? Like we're really sensitive about that. We don't put any of our IP up there. Like usually when I'm putting up is stuff that we've published anyway. So for example, we've got a whole folder of product literature, right? Like that's realistically, we hand that out at conferences. I'm okay loading up the workspace with that information. But I do want to be clear, be very careful before you start, obviously you don't want to dump it, especially healthcare. I mean, for goodness, I'm hopefully the folks in healthcare already know this. And you talk about PHI and personal information. So let's just say hopefully folks are aware of this. And I think they are. From my experience, I think a lot of the hospitals so far are being more cautious than not. Like they're just blocking the IP ports and stuff right now because you can't trust. We're all going to do it, right? If you have it, you're going to end up asking it some questions. Maybe you're not dumb enough to ask it a patient question, but So anyway, that's my word of caution. Okay, so prompts. All right. So now let's go back and check in with Lance. All right. So now I want to introduce Lance, who we're real honored to have Lance here today. Lance is dialed in from the Carolinas and is a Microsoft certified trainer. He's been really diving into a lot of training on prompt engineer and helping develop courseware, training for clients, I think all over the world, certainly all over the US. And so we're really lucky to have him here today to talk about some of the stuff that he's been excited about in prompt engineering. And so with that said, Lance, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to this meeting today. I wanted to go ahead and show you, see this window, get the right one here. All right. Just so everybody can see my screen. Is everybody seeing that?
Not yet. No. Oh, but maybe I have to do something. Hold on. I do. Yep. Now we do. Yep.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Paul's mentioned some of this already, but I'm going to reiterate some of the points that he mentioned about prompting. Prompting is so important today, and I want to kind of try to help demystify some of that. This is kind of introductory, so if you've heard it before, you may hear it my way. So, let's get started. I'm IT, like Paul said. I've been doing training for a while. I've done all sorts of things. I'm a musician. In the community, I do a lot of online training and in-person training. And I speak at conferences, speak at events, and speak at groups like we have here. So why AI prompt engineering matter for healthcare leaders? Understand it helps you understand AI's role in decision making. There's an importance or effective AI interaction that's needed, and leaders need to be able to use AI for better insights. So we want to be able to use these 3 points in making us better and better prompting and better using the tools that we have available to us, because AI is a very powerful thing. Um, AI revolution in healthcare, there's all sorts of things going on from all levels of clinical decision making to policy development, helping in administrative efficiencies and in healthcare innovation. I've been posting on LinkedIn every week some of the new innovations that have come out with AI in healthcare. They're very, very innovative, and it's on the forefront of uh, from the head to the tail, in everything in healthcare. So, all right, the common pitfalls that people run. I mean, Paul talked about the basics of prompt engineering, what it is, how we use it, how to go about it. And you guys all probably have a good idea of that as well. But common pitfalls a lot of people have problems with that cause them to not want to continue to use the AI. And first off is garbage in, garbage out. If you have bad prompts, like a bad prompt is how can we improve patient outcomes? A better prompt might be, what are the 3 proven strategies to reduce readmission rates for post-surgical patients? So the wording that you use when you enter your prompts is critical to getting the answers that you want. A second issue that arises is called overloaded prompts. Trying to ask too many things at once confuses the AI sometimes. It's getting better, as I've also said. Today is the worst day every AI will ever be, because it'll always get better every day. It's getting better and better. So sometimes you need to break down your questions. A bad prompt might be, how can we improve workflow efficiency, reduce cost, and improve patient satisfaction? Where a better prompt might actually be, give me the step-by-step process on how to optimize hospital workflow efficiency. Next, we can explore the cost-saving strategies from that. And then not only are you saying that you want a step-by-step process to the AI, you're saying you're going to explore some cost-saving strategies in the following conversation. So you want to treat it like it is at a level of understanding, but you have to explain yourself and make sure that you're getting your prompts across in a way that are going to give you the information you want. It's all about getting the information that you need to get out of it in the manner that you want to. And a lot of things that I talk about in my trainings is about prompting styles. Things which we'll go over a couple of them today, but they are based on psychological language interactions, how people talk to each other, how people react to each other. AI using natural language uses the same type of methods, and you can use those methods in your conversations with AI to make your interaction with AI a whole lot better. And just like Paul was talking about the prompting and the instructions, giving them instructions, that helps the AI you, let you know what it needs to do, and you let the AI know what it needs to do in order to give you the best answers possible, and can build on that. It can build on that through conversations, through usage, and through the way that you prompt the actual AI. And then the third one is assumptions or underspecified prompts. AI relies entirely on the provided input, so incorrect or incomplete context can skew your results. You want to avoid hidden biases. Like a bad prompt might be, why is telemedicine ineffective for elderly patients? Where an actual better prompt might be, what are the key barriers preventing elderly patients from adopting telemedicine, and how can they be addressed? So again, you have to approach it in a way that it's there, but it doesn't make assumptions like people do. That's the one thing we can't assume the AI knows what we're after. So sometimes we have to rearrange our prompts and the way we talk to it to order to get the most information that we need out of it. And a lot of times this can be done with a topic that you're very, very familiar with, and you can actually test the AI to see how it responds the first time, and then build your prompts based on knowing how the AI is responding to how you're prompting it. And so when you go from there, you can get better responses, better answers, better chat
Lance, can I
conversations.
interrupt for a
Framing these
second?
prompts.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
sure.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I just want to double check on the slides to make sure. Are you still in the common pitfalls? Because that's what we're still seeing on the screen. Oh, okay, good. I just want to
Yes.
double check. That's all, just to be sure. And by the way, I love that tip about
Yeah, I
testing the
understand.
prompt with something you already know. Like, I found that to be really useful as well. So thank you. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Good.
Yep. All right. The big pitfall as well is structured versus unstructured prompting. Unstructured prompting leads to generic responses, while structured prompts can yield precise, actionable insights. For example, a bad prompt might be, "How do I prove efficiency?" or "What should I do?" Where a better prompt might be, "Provide a structured plan for reducing patient wait times in an emergency room," or "Provide a 3-step plan for reducing ER wait times in a hospital setting." So again, you might be in a conversation with your AI and you're not getting the answers that you want. Sometimes you might have to step back and restructure your prompt to actually ask it the right questions that you need to ask it. The information is there, but it's not going to just natively give it to you because it doesn't make inferences again. You have to make the assumption that it does not assume, and make sure that you talk to the AI and have your conversations with the AI in a manner that is able to pull the information that you need. And again, like I said, having a topic that you are familiar with and know the answers to is a awesome way. It's a question answer method. You can actually question the AI in direct questions of a topic that you know and have it answer you to see if it's correct, and then you can refine. You can actually refine the data if you need to, which is another one of the methods that is done. So, like, you're seeing an answer, refining it, and then getting the correct answer based on the new data. So, it goes back to statistical probability as well as statistics. Okay, today's focus. I'm going to talk about 2 out of 3 of these today, real quick, since we're short on time today. Chain of thought prompting is basically the step-by-step process in which you get reasoning that you see in the new reasoning methods, which is why I don't want to talk about this too much. We see this every day in the new reasoning models that we see. You'll see it actually go through these steps. You'll see it's thinking. It says it's thinking. It's like asking this question, looking for this, looking for this. That's the chain of thought uh, method that the AI is using. But we can actually do it in prompting as well, where you actually go through the chain of steps, asking it questions and going through steps to make sure that each step is the way you need it to be, and it validates the answers that you're getting. So if you get an answer from AI, you can ask it to tell you step by step how it came about the answer, and then question on each step if you need to. So again, this is something that gets a little deep into it. But again, if you're learning to use these tools and you're wanting to use these tools to make your efficiency better overall, it's good to have a knowledge of how you talk to the AI and how the AI understands you. So the second one is called role play prompting, which in a sense gives you, once you get to that point where you're conversing with the AI and you understand how to talk to it and how it talks to you, then you can ask it to play a particular role. This is very useful. I'll go through some of the use case here in a minute. It's very useful though in having someone to ping ideas off of and to see what information you might miss or you might gain from having the AI be a particular stance or a particular position in an argument that you're making. And then meutic prompting, like I said, challenging assumptions for deeper thoughts, putting those questions out there that are going to test the AI and give you the answers that you need, breaking it down to validate the information that you're wanting to receive and wanting to get from the AI rather than just in one long prompt. You can break it down into steps. So here's an example of role play prompting. The definition is involving asking the AI to take a specific role or persona to respond in a manner aligned with the role's expertise, perspective, and style. The style is particularly effective when seeking domain-specific insights, contextual advice, or nuanced responses that require empathy, creativity, or a particular common approach. So in use cases for this is like if you want to have the AI be the board, if you're presenting a pitch to the board and you want to present your case, you can have it mock as a particular person, you know how their style is, or you know how their approach is to to doing a particular thing. You tell it to take the role. You can actually put in, if you have information about the person or the actual personality persona, you can actually put that information in there, and it will adhere to those criteria in your instructions, so that you can take a particular approach. Like if you know someone has a particular approach to responding to you or responding to a particular situation, you can put that in there as an instruction so that it responds similarly to what you're wanting to do, so that you can gain the insights that you need, so that when you are presented with the actual person conversation, you can go about it in a better way, a more efficient way. All right. Again, key characteristics of role play prompting is that you have a defined role stated. You're asking the AI to embody a particular persona or expertise. Then you have contextual awareness. Responses are tailored to the persona's knowledge and perspective and does not travel outside of that unless you want it to. And then you can do, again, the language, tone, style to reflect the role and depth of realism. And then problem solving and empathy. AI offers insights and advice through personally invested in solving the user's challenge. So it can offer a third party perspective once you've pinged the information off the user or off the AI. It can actually offer the perspective of that person. So it's a really great tool to use when putting together research or putting together a conversation or an argument that you want to debate. Um, Key benefits of doing this: enhanced relevance, increased engagement, improved understanding, and focused expertise. You can do it from, a thing I like to do is have a particular persona, ask it a set of questions on a topic that it's expertise in, and then tell it to change the persona to something that's totally wrong. So like say you're talking to a developer expert that develops copilots, and you ask it a set of questions on copilots. Then tell the persona to change and make it a ballet dancer that has no idea what copilots are, and then have it answer the same questions that you just did, and you'll get a totally different set of answers. So you can see how you could make the nuances of what your personas are to make them work for you. Here's an example. I don't want to read the whole thing, but you can see the level of detail. This is one prompt. This is one prompt that basically defines a persona for a AI to be a healthcare leadership consultant specializing in digital transformation and operational efficiency. And then what you do, you're telling this the what it is, what they are, where they are. Uh, you tell them that you're invited to consult a leadership team of a major healthcare organization, and what their concern is in their conversation with you. And then based on the expertise, provide the insights, the real world examples, and best practices. And then explain the recommendations in a way that resonates with both executive leadership and frontline healthcare providers. So you can have it take the information that you provided, put the expertise in, and provide output that you can then use as fuel to continue the conversation elsewhere, or prepare yourself for when you're actually going to, if you're going to the leadership conference and you're going to be the leadership consultant, you can actually have it be the consultant for you, get that information together. I use this a lot when doing my trainings. I tried to see what kind of audience I'm telling, and I built this actual prompt from using uh, a role play example as well to do this. So again, this is it in action. And I don't know, Paul, if you can, I don't know if this is in the healthcare guide or not, but these are some of the more advanced examples that we have. How many? Okay, I got a couple more minutes here, but I want to talk. Okay, role play, probably why it works. It embodies expertise. It has contextual-driven solutions. It emphasizes strategic thinking. It directs the AI to consider adoption challenges, compliance, and patient outcomes. And this is for that particular prompt. And then engages decision makers. It'll be tailored to both executive operational teams, making it actionable across all levels. So because you put the level of detail in the persona and then presented your questions in that way, or your pitch per se, it's able to provide you the data for that pitch that will be contextual to what you told it needs to be, that you're going to represent when you go to that healthcare conference. So and it's a great way. It's perfect for healthcare and health tech professionals driving change in the sector. This can be used for all sorts of things, from research to operational efficiency to clinic efficiencies, and from all levels, from frontline workers all the way to executives. So it's a good tool to be able to do, and a good method. All right, the last one here I'm going
Hold
to
on,
talk
Lance,
about is
just a second, 'cause we have a question.
prompting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
So
Sure.
it's possible you can take it after the end of discussion about the prompting. But how do you validate the quality of the suggestions you get? Right? That at the end of the day, there's a presumption about fairly deep knowledge of what healthcare consultants do, right? And how do we know that the language model has that depth of knowledge in its training?
It's a great question. Lance, I'm going to field this one. If you don't mind, I'll just start. Yeah. The question is, just for the other people online that might not have heard, is basically, how do you evaluate or confirm the accuracy of the response? Which, as you can imagine, so some of the prompts we're looking at now, if they're more research prompts, is probably not as important, right? But the reality is there are going to be times when it does matter, and especially as you're building. We're starting to go through this new phase now of enterprise AI and integrating AI with the enterprise, and so it does matter to be accurate. The cool thing, though, is that there are entire frameworks put in place. All of the major vendors, like there's different flavors of them, but Microsoft has their framework as well. So basically what you can do is you can create these things called evaluations. They're actually called evaluations. And what they do as a developer, you can create those and you actually use them as your code is executing. So for example, in our physician experience Copilot, it does matter, right? Like we don't want it to hallucinate and blah, 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 right? So that's the extra pain and the value that we bring to the table is sorting that stuff out, if you will. But that's, anybody can do that, right? That's what we're here to do, is to share knowledge. Any Microsoft partner can go up to the Microsoft site. Just all you have to do is research evaluations, and there's something, they're tied to something else too, but evaluations will get you there for now. So.
In his example, how do you evaluate how good one consultant is? It's hard, right? In the real life, the consultant really good. There are many metrics.
100%.
In the current system, do we have just evaluations for consultants, evaluation for software architects?
You remember our session that Lance is doing today is just more just like intro prompt engineering, right? But so let's talk about this scenario you're talking about. It's real world. So I deal with this every day. So that's actually one of the great things about the spaces, right? Because I actually start the space. Lance was teaching this to us. Sorry, Lance, let me turn on my camera again. What we do is, you set up the persona first, and then and then you also set up the persona in the workspace. I'm sorry, not finished my thought, but then you give it documents. So for the example that I had up on the screen earlier, you probably saw I was actually researching DeepSeek, and I wanted it to be accurate. I mean, I make $300 an hour for research. I don't want to waste my time. You know what I mean? I can't guess at this thing. So what do? Well, I upload the PDF. I go to first I ask the AI, where is the paper, right? And then once I find the paper, I actually download the thing. I pull it right down to my desktop. And then I go to Perplexity in that workspace that's already set up and trained to talk to me about this stuff. And I'm literally clipping that thing right to the chat prompt. And now that chat is literally grounded in that document. And so I would argue at that point, when you're in an environment like that, it will actually give you stunning feedback on who, as a matter of fact, I can guarantee it because I'm doing it right now, but I'm doing it with venture funding. So we have meetings with different people that have all various questions about funding, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. We're using the same exact technique that I described to you. We're just very specific about what we make available to it, the documents, the links, et cetera. And then we're very specific with our persona. And I would argue that even Perplexity out of the box, from my experience and training and my team's experience in the past months, brilliant at that type of stuff. Absolutely. Especially if you have a bunch of them to look at. You've got question sets from 12 VCs, or you've got 100 different documents from 100 different engineers. Now you can just put those all up in a SharePoint site, and you literally just there's all the applicants, right? And you start talking to them. So,
You're
all right,
only,
Lance, sorry.
you're only as
Go
good as your
ahead.
data.
Do you want to add something?
No, no. To your point, you're only as good as your data, and I will challenge the AI if to tell me the references and have it tell me step by step how it came about getting the answer and where it got its
That's a
references
great
from.
point. You know that, right?
And it
You
should
can
be
do
able
that
to
now as
provide
part of a
that to you.
prompt. You can say provide links,
Mhm.
especially Perplexity. Perplexity does it by default, I think now. Like everything that it tells you will
Yeah.
have a link.
Yeah. And so that's part of it and that's part of training your AI, I guess, in a way, not in the conventional sense, but training to make sure that you in your instruction you can say make sure you only look at these, or if you're doing an agent, you can say only look at these particular sources for information, and you can actually scope it to where you need to scope it to. And again, that's another reason for having a topic that you're an expert at to start off with, so that you can kind of get an idea of where you need to go to, maybe go to a topic that you might not be as an
Can I
expert in.
ask
So,
again on
but
this
yeah,
topic?
Yeah.
Because we are talking about healthcare related AI prompt engineering. So suppose I have one image, it's an X-ray. I want to say, with this image, does the patient have cancer?
Test for
whatever,
cancer.
right?
Yeah.
So the related question to his question is, how do we know the answer actually is accurate? The answer says, okay, based on your image, this guy has some big issue.
Yeah.
And how do we validate with some data?
So I'm going to answer it's a little bit out of the scope of today, but I am going to answer, but I'll just answer just very quickly. So the question for people online was, we jumped to clinical now. So far, the conversation we've had so far has been on the administration side of healthcare, and we've been using research-based type prompts, right? Like, tell me what I might want to consider for a sales consultant, blah, blah, blah. So the question in the room now jumped to the clinical side, and it said, hey, now we're using AI to detect if you've got cancer, which, by the way, there's some amazing models. I don't know if you heard, just out of Boston, that are legit doing this. There's one, I just hit 90-something% for some type of cancer. So the real quick answer to your thing is, it's not going to be 100%. That's why we have to keep a provider in the loop. And that's a different model. First of all, it's not generative AI. So usually when we're looking at an X-ray image, it's a traditional machine learning model, and we're doing a prediction. And then based on that prediction, then we might kick in Gen AI and determine some workflows and agents to kick off, et cetera. But there will always be a human in the loop. And so that's the quick answer, but it's outside the scope of what we're talking about today.
But I think it brings up a good point. There's different types of models.
Yes.
And we're talking about the predictive analytic and decision-making models right now versus that's an image recognition.
Exactly.
Model.
Yeah.
And those have to be built completely different. There's multiple different driving, an automatic car is a different model, right? And so I think that's actually important for healthcare executives to understand.
100%.
When they go to buy a technology AI solution, they need to be solving for their problem. If they're starting out with, I want to be able to write the perfect protocol and get my biomarkers right, okay, that can be predictive analytics. But if they're moving on to assessing data, that's probably a different model, and they have to pick the right tool. And 100%. So I think that's really important for people to understand, is what is the problem you're trying to solve so that you use the right AI 100%. Tool.
As a matter of fact, I would predict that's why we're all going to still have jobs. Like, everybody still has been like, oh, AI is going to ruin programmers, right? Okay, it's going to do that just like it did punch card programmers. And remember what happened then? We needed to get really busy, and everything else was short of breath. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing for the next 2 years. I predict it's a $2 trillion opportunity just for Microsoft alone. I call it enterprise AI. That's where it gets even more critical, right? So what we have to acknowledge is, we're going to have a ton of models, right? Our agent. So we have a CMS compliance agent to help hospitals stay compliant with CMS. And then we have another agent that helps maximize RVUs, which is really important to hospitals as well. those agents both use multiple models. And as a matter of fact, where it really gets interesting is with reasoning, because now what we want to do is actually start to do like some chain of thought and reasoning. So now you're looking at using models that are specifically trained just for reasoning, or maybe you specifically train your model so it accurately calls your healthcare functions, right? Getting back to the accuracy thing. That's something we're having to look at now, is writing our own custom orchestrator, because it's not perfect, the one in semantic kernel. But we know what our functions are and what we want to call, so we can write our own custom orchestrator. This is some of the stuff I'll be talking about in CodeCamp and stuff. It's a little more advanced, but that's brilliant. I love what you said. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, that hopefully will keep us busy for a long time.
I think we need to figure out the way, the method to bring the business along, if they call it the business, or the doctors, the pharmaceutical companies. We have to figure out, okay, where do we start? Okay, let's start small. Let's solve a big problem. Protocol and biomarkers, getting it right the first time is a big problem, and we can solve it with one model. And then you start tacking on the other models, as you said, as you build a more global, robust system. But I feel like adoption isn't going to happen if you give the big bang effect, and you're not going to be able to tease out the variables to say which one worked and which one didn't.
I couldn't agree more. And as a matter of fact, I just wrote a really great article, because I think this gets even more complex when you start talking about agents. Because now there's a lot of hype, right? So now there's a lot of hype about agents, and a lot of people say, oh, agents are going to change the hospital, now change this, right? And so my submission is agents are powerful, but it's not going to be a sweeping change. It's going to be exactly what you're describing, like find the win, right? Like, where's the bottleneck right now? Where can I get the ROI right now? Oh, okay, that could be an agent. And you know what? That's why we're going to have jobs. Like, that's what we've been doing for the last 20 years, more or less. It's just now we're doing it with agents instead of workflow builders, right?
Yeah,
so,
sorry to interrupt.
No, please do. Please.
Try to distinguish. First is you want to do this biomarker, like diagnostics, to make sure you have the image, get the effect correct. There's something going on. With that report, you go to the next step, maybe the treatment plan. With the treatment plan, maybe we can use some kind of a language model, but earlier is the image recognition. Those are different models, just like you said.
Exactly.
And in between, there may be something else.
Exactly.
Those are specific different models. We use the system to mimic the workflow of the whole medical teams. Each expert is doing his thing, doing diagnostics, doing the treatment plan, others doing medicine-related one. So all those are different. Then the whole system needs to work together.
Exactly. I just put a pitch together, talking to some executives and showing them, here's study design, here's study development, here's site setups, what you need to do for that, here's the conduct, and here's the closure, and here are all the pieces that you can use of AI for each one of those. And I did some research to figure out which companies currently have a lot of that in the space. Medable and Viva came up a lot, but I also question, because I've worked for some of those tech companies, not Medable and Viva, but I've worked for some others, and you have to be careful what the marketing says versus what they've really got, right? And so that's that.
There's a lot of digital snake. I call it digital snake oil. There's somebody that came up with that term like 20 years ago, and it's always stuck with me.
Sorry, Lance, back to you.
That's okay. It's okay. I think we're at time.
No,
big question.
There's a new image model. I just want you to know that. It was just announced last week from Microsoft Research. So if you truly are interested in the radiology, just Google it. I did a Substack post on it as well. So literally just came out last week, and it's exactly what you're talking about, imaging. So I just share that. Okay, Lance, back.
Sorry, what model is that?
What time is it? I'll tell you after the
6:30.
Maybe you want to take like a couple minutes just to wrap up, or it looks like maybe you made it through your slides. How are you feeling?
I'm at time. So I pretty much have just the review here. Final thoughts. Again, AI is an enhancement, not a replacement. Effective prompting will lead to better decision making all around. You want to embrace AI as a strategic partner in your leadership actions. And try different AI prompts. Try one of the ones in the role play ones we talked about today. There are over 17 different styles that can be applied. I've done some research on this and have it on one of my blog sites, and it's available out there. But I could go on for a couple hours with all the different styles that you could do. So again, we'll just keep it short today. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and hope to talk to you again soon. Paul, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, Lance. Somebody had a question and I was on mute. That was my bad. I really sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so Lynn, the question that I have is you talk about the low playing prompt, and in that particular case, you assuming like one persona, and I'm wondering whether actually you can construct a team persona, and in a team situation, people might have different opinion when they do the prompting, and they could have a different expertise as well. So in that kind of setting, have you tried that particular approach in the prompting that you have done so far?
Not that particular in a sense, not with AI and AI. I have done it with debate prompting where you actually have a specific side that you take and you debate the issue. I have not tried, but I would think that you could say that you're speaking to a board of directors, that one personality is a certain way, the second personality has this stance, the third personality has this stance. I've never tried to actually put multiple personas in one prompt and try it that way. That would be an interesting thing. The way I've done it is get the answer from the one persona and then create a new conversation with the second persona and place and say in the prompt, say in my conversation with the second persona, well, I had heard this answer from this persona. What is your thoughts on this answer? Or what would your debate stance be on this answer from this person? And then kind of spread it out between conversations. Um, but I've never actually tried to just put all like three different personas in one instruction and say have all three answer the way that they would answer. It might could work. I would like to try that actually.
All right.
Got a project then.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
something to note that I do find that's the value of the workspaces and the project. While it's not doing it at the individual level, you can do it at the work stream level. And you've seen we've only been testing it a couple weeks now. We've already got a dozen spaces. One finance, product development, all these different. And at that level, we're giving it, but it's not an individual level. It's at the work stream level.
Yeah. Because the way I think is that basically for organization, people have different skill set.
Yeah.
And some people is better on one side or and you can assume the low have a different skill set and be able to come through to a better suggestion, I suppose.
Yes.
So that's it.
It's getting a lot better. A lot of that is based on essentially the memory.
Yeah.
But short-term memory is what I mean. So being able to recall the conversation thread and also your memories. Now, if you notice in ChatGPT, there's actually a tab called memories.
Yeah.
And what's happening is that's when it's actually persisting information about you and remembering it. And as a matter of fact, now you could even tell it. So I'll do this sometimes. I'll nail my LinkedIn profile, right? And then I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll say, remember this about me. And I'll cut and paste my LinkedIn profile. And then it burns that into memory. And you can even see it. As a matter of fact, you should get used to checking it just like your browser history in the old days. because all your memories are stored there. So the same time I'm asking how to cook the lemon chicken, right, that's going to be in there as well. So you want to be careful about mixing that. So what I've told my team now for the time being is perplexity, work only, make sure we're staying focused. It's so important because we're testing right now too, right? We want to be able to guide customers, etc. And then we also carry a subscription for ChatGPT and Copilot, obviously Copilot for our office work and the stuff that we do. And then, we let people be a little bit more free in ChatGPT, but we ask people to really stick to work stuff. And they understand it because they work with this technology. So they understand exactly why that's important.
I found it's pretty good if you just leave it in the separate projects. Like
Yeah.
Say, okay, my LinkedIn profile is in this project, my chicken recipe is in that project. And if I keep with recipes in this project versus something else in the other project, it does a really good job from what I've seen to remember that context for that topic.
That's good to
I don't
know.
try to mix the topics.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
That's
I
good.
might
Yeah,
have
I
the
don't.
chicken recipe on my
I'm worried about that too. That's good to know because I learned about both projects and spaces and perplexity and Copilot pages. Well, I knew about Copilot pages, but the perplexity one is the one that we've been testing. So I don't have a lot of experience with the ChatGPT projects. I understand they work similar, and I created a couple, but so that's good to hear. So your feedback so far is they seem to do a pretty good job at separating
it does a good job
context.
of separating it, and it does a good job of showing you the sources without even asking. It just pops them all up, right? It gives you the text, and then you could click on the source that you want.
Perplexity is great like that too. By default, it will give you the sources, and Microsoft supports DeepSeek now. They're actually it's sort of funny that got so twisted in the news. They're actually a Microsoft partner, and the mysterious lab is MCT, just like this. It's not really anything secret or fancy, and they actually did some really cool work, and now you can actually use that model. It's actually hosted in Azure. If you go to Azure Foundry Services, you can use DeepSeek for whatever you need to. But the reason why I mention it is because it's also in Perplexity. So if you go to the research, it used to actually specifically say DeepSeek R1, but now it only says research, but that's using the model behind the scenes.
So prompted by your thought about different, having different personas debating it, right? I think imagine that other aspects are like, how, what risk, you're willing to take a risk, right, or things like that, right? Have you done any experiments with sort of like how that, qualities of the changes in responses, right? Are you, do you want to be very conservative in your cost savings, right? Do you want to be very conservative in your transformation? Are you willing to be more, I don't know what the polite person is saying, like more aggressive in how you go about the transformation in the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for myself. Like for me, I'm engaged in stuff that I know about. And so I'm just asking it to help me with stuff I know about. And I can tell if it's wrong or it's right. And if it's wrong, then I ask it again or I fix it. And I can only tell you how I work. My personal experience, what I found is the people that benefit the most are the knowledge workers. Like if you have a team of 25 engineers, and and you could probably 10x those folks, right? I'm not going to say you could do that across your workforce. And so I can tell you though, from my personal experience, that is 100% true. And forget about it once you start talking about coding. Like, I don't know if anybody's played with Cursor yet and the agentic programming in Cursor. Forget about it. Forget about it. What I mean? It's just like I'm a 10-person team now. Like literally.
But I think that's I disagree with this though, because Cursor, you're just spinning the wheel. So 99% of the time, magic, right? You get something good. Other times it's missing something, it's junk. You have to go debug it.
No, it depends on your prompting.
I think it's really good to think about like a junior engineer.
Okay.
They need more context.
Let me tell you my experience now.
And so if you're using like the Claude models, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But you'll create bugs.
Okay, 100%. You're going to have a ton of bugs. Yep. You're going to have a ton of bugs.
Yeah, especially with healthcare. Like I would not deploy a team of like Cursor agents to build
it has a reset button.
Yeah, and all you have to do is get started. But wait a minute, let's just be clear.
Like you can type pretty quick, and if it's already your system, you know where things are. Like
no. I disagree. So let me answer back.
We're talking about healthcare though.
Okay, so let me answer back. Let me. This is a true story.
Like this is because it's 99%. Like it's not 100%.
This is a true story. What I'm about to tell you.
I'm just telling you, like it's not.
Just like you
tell people they're 10xers now by giving them a junior engineer like toolbox, you know?
So just like you, we have an existing code base too. And one of the things that I tell people around the world when I talk about startups and AI is that one of the most things that's most often overlooked is taking something that you already have and making it 10x better with AI. So for example, let me finish, please. Please let me finish. So over the past 10 years, we have built a body of IP with a major hospital system. We know it works. It's running on-prem. And now what we want to do is we want to modernize it. We have the database schema. We have the SQL Server stored procedures. We are literally just wiring up agentic stuff and the use X to the thing. So when I start to work with Cursor, I don't do what you're doing, spin up me this app. No, I'm saying, here's my database schema. Tell me what you think about this schema. And I'm spending days working with it. But here's where it gets better. You want to hear a new trick I just learned? Remember I was telling you, so now the VCs are talking to us. They want to talk. Now I use Cursor to prove to them how valuable our code base is. So I will literally open up a Cursor window, because now the code base is solid. And I'll be like, tell me about the agentic properties of this and why is this valuable to hospitals? Boom. And it literally goes into my code and highlights functions and why and explains how that can be done. So I'm even using it now beyond just the technical aspect of programming. But once you have that piece in place, again, then play with it and say, okay, how do I take this to the next level, et cetera, et cetera. So I would submit that if you use the approach I'm suggesting, you will 10x your productivity. That 10x my productivity. I would have had to work with 10 people to do that.
Code, it makes you faster. In VS Code and in Cursor, you can give it rules. Those are really important.
Yeah.
Only use this. The library is already installed. Only do this. Please reference this file as an example.
Yeah.
Like, all that context is really important, and it's really helpful.
Yeah.
But it's not like build me a fire server and then deploy it. Like
100%.
Like,
nope. I hope you didn't get that from what I said.
Okay.
Because it's actually a bunch of work, but it will 10x me. And by the way, it would 10x me. It might not 10x you. Maybe it will 2x you. That's fair to say. We're all different people. We all learn different ways and we like different tools. We all like different programming languages too, to be fair, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing about it now. Now, I used to tell people, well, I live and breathe in C#. That's my thing. I grew up on C#. I don't like Java. But now it's like, no, I code in 10 languages. Because if I can understand C# with Cursor, I could read through Rust. I could read through.
It's still a best guess. It's not 100%.
Of course
There's
not.
a great talk, actually.
Yes.
Scott Hanselman, I think, is.
I know Scott very well.
At the NBC conferences like a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That talk on YouTube is really, really good.
Yeah.
And he shows behind the scenes of like some.
Well, they use Copilot,
like
first of all.
90%.
They're using Copilot. The demos that Scott is doing, in all fairness, are using GitHub Copilot.
Generative AI, though, is
I'm talking about Cursor.
Like,
What Microsoft does not have yet that Cursor has is they have real agentic. And I'm telling you, I've watched that agentic engine run with hundreds of bugs.
Yeah.
And I'll let that thing run for hours and come back in with Claude 3.7.
How's that 10xing anybody, though? You can just type it, right?
Not the amount of, but not when I'm talking. I don't know how to explain it to you.
Hey, Paul, a question for you. In the way that you describe, like in terms of you using like Cursor beyond like a technical kind of highlight the value of, and that's the interesting take of it. It's a more like
awesome.
a business side.
Yeah.
The question that I have is that in that kind of evaluation, when they look at give you that kind of highlight, do you think that using what kind of like a result that allow them to do this kind of valuation?
Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'd happy to share it and show you a presentation. I literally created like probably 10 or 15 pages of Microsoft Word documents just from Cursor. Because after working, like I was on literally like a week-long binge. It was so cool. It was like the most tech stuff I'd done in a while. Like literally like 2 weeks, but 7 days straight, heads down. Me, 2 other people. And I got it right. The code base is finally going. We got our agents up. Right. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then I realized I can ask it that stuff, right? Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, okay, prove it to me. Like, how is this valuable? Tell me about the agent stuff. And man, it was so good. I couldn't copy and paste it fast enough. I was like, boom, Word, send to marketing. Boom, Word, send to salespeople. Right. I even asked it to come up with the pricing thing. Like, can you help me come up with something that might entice people, to use this type of thing? Again, all non-technical. And I was doing this in Cursor in my code editor.
Sure.
Blew my mind. So anyway, that in all fairness 10x me because I don't know anything about that stuff. I'm an engineer.
I agree. It makes you quick. I just like it's not 100%. It's not perfect.
Yeah,
Like,
AI is
so-
not
so,
perfect.
like, it's the same thing. And I think the
Yeah.
other question, there's like a strategy of LLM as judge, right? Where you have
Yeah.
other LLMs kind of evaluate. So I think that's important.
Evaluations.
Same thing. Like you try different models, try different things.
Yeah.
And you need senior engineers to review that code. Like that's not just getting merged and deployed.
Yeah, just to be clear, I hope you didn't get from me that we're going to go from cursor
I'm
to
just,
production.
like,
or,
it's
my
not-
only comment is that for me at 10x is my time as an engineer.
Certainly.
Did you find that if you put code in it, existing code, that it could debug it?
Well, yeah, that's why it moves so fast because we were not doing what a lot of people are doing right now, like create me a blackjack game or whatever, right? Or from start. No, we were giving it our existing code base. And then what we explained to it, the thing is we had already done a ton of research over the last year. We knew exactly what we wanted to do with the agents. We had existing stored procedures. We already know the business side of it, like what we need to do to be compliant with CMS. So just like any prompt, this is a great way to end this actually. So just like any prompt, we started very specific. We were like, here's our data. I start like any program, you start with a database schema, right? So I didn't go any further until I knew it would do it, could nail that, right? So I started with the database schema and I was like, okay, I need to add 2 agents. This is exactly what I want them to do. This is the base table. I literally cut the SQL create statement out of SQL Server and pasted it into the prompt. So it knew every detail about every column in that schema. What was so cool is it generated all of the code and objects and classes based on that original database schema that I get. See, that's where it just threw it to a whole nother level. And yes, I had bugs. There were a lot of them, but I'm telling you, that effort in the past would have at least been, it would have taken 3 months just to go back and forth with the dev team. Just in communicating requirements, we would have wasted literally, I know for a fact, because I've been doing this for 30 years, that was at least 3 weeks worth of work that we were able to, crunch. Sorry, yeah.
I'm curious. So you're feeding your code base in.
Yeah.
Where is the limitation? At some point, you can't handle a code base larger than a certain size, or you haven't hit that?
I haven't hit it because you know why? You can select the cool thing about Cursor too. And by the way, there's probably other ones too. GitHub, in all fairness, GitHub Copilot is great. It just doesn't have the agent.
Have it in a minute too, because VS Code Insiders has it now.
They'll get there.
VS Code is going to eat Microsoft will eat their lunch in a minute.
Microsoft hasn't eaten anybody's lunch in years, if we were to be honest. Microsoft is a follower, sir. And I love Microsoft. I made a living millions of dollars off of Microsoft for 30 years, but that is
a rude reckoning in a few months, I think, because VS Code is going to basically have all.
Do you know Cursor is VS Code?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't have to pay for Cursor. You could just use.
Yeah.
And then it's integrated with GitHub, and then like on and on.
That's wonderful to have choices. I you know what's interesting? I program in 3 tools now. That when I was doing that, we heads down. I had Cursor open because Cursor can't do everything, obviously. And then you need to be able to flip in. I needed to be able to slip into Visual Studio to be able to see my whole web API and see all the classes and structure in Visual Studio. And then I had to have VS Code open too, so I could see my front end. So I had my Node front end open in VS Code. I had my in middle tier and then I had Cursor in the background. And so Cursor was like my buddy, and it was really cool. So they were reading from the same repo. That just blew my mind. So I had 3 different editors reading from the same exact repo. And of course I got full source control on, so I can just discard any changes. Like if something goes crazy or something, just discard. And so again, I'm not suggesting a beginner programmer, you go jump in and it's going to kill you. But I'm telling you, if you have experience and you know what you're doing, it's freaking amazing, in my opinion. It really is. So
I totally agree with you. I wasn't trying to say it's not that. But
no, it's
just
fair.
Like,
well, there's so much hype.
Especially for healthcare. Yeah,
there's so much hype.
You talk to like
so you're, in all fairness to you,
executives, the marketing people, and it's like a silver bullet, just AI. Whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's
has to be
a ton of hype.
Still some software development life cycle, like best practices.
Yeah, but I promise you, we're the opposite. We're the anti-hype people. So that's all right, so I'm going to end this stream.